Okay, so I'm gonna try and be a good one-woman business person, and do my social media due diligence. I'm trying really hard to figure out how to manage a bunch of different social media accounts and to really make a go of this. I've been on and off with my social media through the years. If you look back, you'll see. You don't need to, though. I'm going to try really hard to maintain a much more regular. It's not going to be over the top. I'm not going to be posting daily necessarily. There might be spurts where I do, and there might be some spurts where I drop off the face of the earth again. I'm going to try really hard, though. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, hi, I'm Renee. I am the one-woman show that is Wavellite Creative. Some people might ask where on earth I came up with the name Wavellite Creative. If you look closely, you'll notice there is a double L, and it's not spelled the way you think it is. So when you say wave light, people think wave and then like light bulb. It's not. So it comes from the name of a crystal that, long story short, I decided I liked the metaphysical meaning behind this crystal, that it aids in making decisions. So I jumped on it, not really thinking through how much it would cause some confusion in spelling constantly. So it is Wavellite Creative. It's not weave. It's not the light bulb. It's technically the name of a guy who found this mineralized crystal in this crazy starburst orb formation that I just think is cool. It's the thing behind the C in my logo. That's my version of a simplified version of the crystalline structure. Anyway, so yeah. It started out as kind of an umbrella name for different fingers of my business. Those of you that have known me a long time know that I've shifted the focus of my business a little bit one way or another. I've dropped a couple of products due to the practicality in a lot of ways, but being able to maintain my business the way I want to. I'm moving forward really, really just trying so hard to make the fiber arts industry my niche. But within that, because I started out, okay, let's go back in history for a little while. Oh my God. Okay, so this is ADHD land up here. So I'm realizing that I diverged. So I was talking about the name Wavellite Creative. And so anyway, so it was named after this guy, Wavell, who found this crystalline structure, green orb-like thing, with this starburst from the inside. And it's just a really cool structure, and I don't know, spoke to me in a way. And so I glommed onto that. And so when you name a crystal after a person, it's their name and then ITE. So Wavellite. Or when you name it after a place, like there's other crystals like Labradorite. It's named after the place Labrador, not a dog, because the dogs originally were bred in Labrador. Anyway, totally, I know weird things. I am a repository of bizarre random facts that may or may not have any connection to anything else. And they randomly come out of my mouth because ADHD. All right, so I'm going to try real hard to stay on task here. Well, you're getting to know who I am, just based on my ramble. So anyway, so I chose the name, so it's technically Wavellite Creative, but Wavellite Creative, as long as you include the 2 L's and spell it correctly, I don't care how you say it. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's not Any issue for me, as long as you get the spelling right so you can actually find my website or find my social medias, all good for me. But yeah, some year I may have to rebrand, or maybe it's just going to become the thing. Wavellite. Remember the double L's. I don't know. All right. So I was diverging off into how I ended up really getting into fiber arts in the first place. So when I was real young, my school did a thing where they brought in classes of all sorts, and we would sign up for the classes we'd want to take, and somehow I ended up, because all the ones that I signed up for were full, so I got stuck in the one that like no one signed up for, which was knitting. I don't know, I think I might have been 8. Just old enough to have the dexterity necessary to knit, and I was handed 2 12-inch aluminum size, I want to say 10 knitting needles. They might have been 8s, but they were 12-inch long, blue aluminum, you know, good old days in the 80s with the aluminum straights. And I was taught how to knit. I didn't really retain how to cast on, but I was taught how to knit, and I had no idea what was knit and what was purl, but I could get yarn on the needles. And I could change my rows, and I didn't lose too many stitches one way or the other. I didn't end up with a triangle, but I ended up with this swatch that I really loved to like use as, I don't know, a weird doll blanket or something. And then promptly put my knitting needles down and walked away. And then a while later, I'm like, oh yeah, I have those knitting needles. I'm going to try to remember how to knit. And I realized that I could not remember how to cast on. So I rummaged around in the craft supplies of the house and found a book on knitting and crocheting, and used that book with its pictorial illustrations, because, you know, this was before Google and before the internet was like really a thing. I mean, the internet might have technically been around at that point, but it was not accessible to me, and not in a useful way. Not like what we have now. Yes, kids, I am older than Google. Anyway, so I taught myself how to cast on, super simple half hitch cast on. Could barely tell the difference of what was knit and what was purl. I still think I actually technically knit kind of backwards, or something's not normal the way I knit, because I always have problems when we talk about slipping knitwise, or there's some issue with some of my knitting technical know-how, but I still managed to do quite a few projects, and actually right now I'm in the process of kind of designing a pattern for some sweaters, and so that's a long process. It'll be a while before those show up in any useful way. But anyway, so that started the whole darn thing from me being like 8 and accidentally getting stuck in this knitting class that I had no idea. But then as time progressed, I'm like, oh, that book that I taught myself how to cast on with, because, you know, a kid running around with 12-inch aluminum knitting needles made some adults think that was kind of strange, or maybe they were worried I was going to impale myself or someone else. I don't know. But I also had a real problem, especially with those aluminum knitting needles, of dropping stitches. And I didn't have any stitch stoppers to put on the ends of my needles or anything like that. So, because I had very bare bones supplies. And one point when I had some money on me, I had the brilliant idea to buy 12-inch size 2 knitting needles, because I thought I was going to do something with some really thin yarn. And very quickly, as, I don't know, I was like 10, maybe 12, I don't know, somewhere in there, I thought I was going to knit something with some really thin yarn, and realized very quickly that size 2s hurt my fingers. It was interesting. Anyway, so that never went anywhere, but at least at that point in time. I still have those size 2s somewhere around here. And actually probably the size 8 or 10s that I started with. And then I went from that to, I was like, well, I knew my mom knew how to crochet, but she was left-handed, so she didn't feel capable of teaching me left-handed reversing to right hand, whatever. I'm somewhat ambidextrous, so like I can kind of do it both hands, but it's not like easy for me. But that's beside the point. So I took that book and I taught myself to crochet from it, and used the book, and then actually kind of, I would hold something crocheted in front of me and I'd kind of stretch it out and see if I could follow the yarn through the stitches. And I'm very spatially, I'm able to process things very spatially and structurally. I also have a master's degree in architecture. That's almost a different person. When I think back to the person that was me in architecture, it really feels like a lifetime ago. And I mean, I don't want to say how many years it's been since I graduated with my master's. We're gonna just leave that. We're gonna leave that back there. Anyway, like I said, my life took some interesting twists and turns through the years, and it's really interesting how I ended up here. So anyway, so I taught myself to crochet, and for years and years and years, I mostly crocheted. Yes, you know, teenager, I crocheted like crazy because I'm ADHD and apparently have some other things where I kind of need to stim, and I need to keep my hands busy because other things just need to keep my hands busy, if you can't tell. And so I should have a knitting project in my hands right now, but then I'd focus on the knitting project and I wouldn't be talking to the camera as well. Okay, so I taught myself to crochet. I crocheted for many years, did tons of blankets and scarves, and like everyone I knew had a scarf or a hat or a blanket from me. And then I actually, another, you know, weird transitions in life and things happen, and I went through a stint of making some more interesting things, but nothing earth-shattering. And I started to really understand the construction of things. Anyway, so that's end up, yeah, so stay on task, Renee. I can do this. So I ended up in a position where I didn't have a full-time job. I was trying to figure out what was next for me. And I did everything from sold Tupperware to painted murals. I did several children's rooms with some really cool paintings that I'm really sad. I know they got painted over and covered up, and that's okay. But there was a really cool room that I did that was space, and it had all the planets. And I did bigger than a yoga ball Earth, and oh my God, it was just phenomenal. Anyway, I'm very proud of that painting. It's somewhere deep inside my old photos in my personal Facebook account. But anyway, I did all sorts of things. And then I got into this little boutique co-op of sorts where you were supposed to work a certain amount of hours a month at this little boutique, and there were opportunities to teach classes, and there were a bunch of other things. But anyway, so I got into that boutique, and they really encouraged me to explore different ways of designing and doing, and different materials, and they really broadened my view. And I really do owe that little co-op, that's not really what it is anymore. It has changed over the years and become something else. But I was part of another little one that sadly did not last very long. You know, things happen. And I would do vendor shows, and I learned very quickly that most of these vendor shows were not where I would do well. I wasn't into making little plush animals. I wasn't doing washcloths that I could sell super cheap. I wasn't doing repetitive design things. I would do my own design as I go. I did a lot of freeform. I did hats with no patterns. For a while, I did some amazing cotton hats for people with fighting cancer. So it was very, very skin friendly for their scalp and wouldn't be overly warm in the summer. And I expanded very into, I mean, I'm not talking like sugars and cream cotton yarn. I'm talking, this was really high-end cotton yarn, and I got into the higher-end hand-dyed wools and started designing my own patterns and doing a lot of my own thing. And again, I realized very quickly that what was, if we think back to the 80s and 90s, what we thought of as craft fairs, those stopped being a thing, and things shifted and veered toward different types of businesses. And I realized that I wasn't doing real well at these little vendor fairs and things like that. So I didn't know where things were going to go. And again, my life took me in some weird twists and turns. At that point, I was going through a lot of things personally, me and my husband, and I felt very lost. I had a lot of emotion to deal with what was going on, so I ended up getting into martial arts, which I still miss. I very much miss it, but now I know I have Ehlers-Danlos and some other conditions that make martial arts a very risky proposition for me, as I found out, because I broke my leg just above my ankle and tore out my ACL. That was a whole thing, and it took a while to recover. And in the recovery process, I even got into teaching fitness classes and doing a lot of that, and that was great. But at the same time, I couldn't maintain it because I didn't know I was Ehlers-Danlos at the time. I now know that, and that was why I couldn't maintain that level of activity to be able to maintain doing those classes and teaching and doing those things, even though I love it. I miss a lot of that. But anyway, and all the while, I was still knitting and crocheting and doing things and selling finished works. But during that time, during some of the most turmoil of all of that, I found myself, because I had found some really fantastic resources for the higher quality materials. And I found out about this little sheep and wool festival near me. And I do mean little. I think it was 10 vendors at most. And there were some people there spinning and doing all sorts of things related to yarn and fiber arts. And I mean, I knew about spinning. My family had actually inherited a spinning wheel that we thought was decorative. And I was talking with some people at the show, and they're like, oh my gosh, no, bring it in. You come here tomorrow, you bring us that wheel, we'll get you spinning, we'll get you set up. Lo and behold, all it was missing was a drive band and some TLC, because boy, it had been dried out. The wheel had been sitting just as decoration for years and had not been given any real attention. So the leather was all very dry, and thankfully I take better care of her now, and she does function, and I still do occasionally use her. But I learned to spin on a Saxony style Country Craftsman built in the 1980s. A whole 45 years ago, thereabouts. And, it had a little 2-ounce bobbin, and it spun lace weight real well, because that's what those wheels are for. It spun lace weight real well, but I wanted to do more expansive things, and gosh darn it, once I got the spinning bug, it kind of took hold. And so then I got into spinning yarn and got into going to more of the sheep and wool festivals near me, and met some wonderful, wonderful artisans and shop owners and shepherdesses or shepherds, whatever. I met tons of people in the industry, and really got into the whole world of it, and it welcomed me in with open arms. I don't know what it is about this community. They're really wonderful people, and we're very welcoming, most of us. I mean, you'll always find someone who, whatever, rubs you the wrong way or whatever, but really, truly, we're a really welcoming community, and I really just glommed onto it because I really needed a place to belong. And the woman that taught me to spin really thinks that, like, I must have been a spinner in a past life or something. There's something there, because my hands know what they're doing. I don't always have to think about it. And long story short, anyway, so I expanded out I got a different spinning wheel to do different things than that country craftsman could do. And I really enjoyed doing a variety of yarn. And then we were talking about drop spindles and physics. And so then I started designing drop spindles. And then all the while I was also like getting into, like, I would help other vendors like set up and take down their shows and kind of help around the venues and stuff. So I was getting into kind of behind the scenes. And then a vendor had me go on the road with them, and I would help sell and teach and do all sorts of things. And suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, this is where I belong. This is my world. So anyway, fast forward to right around 2020, 2021, when the world was in an interesting place, and I was home a lot, but still really, really was like, fiber arts is my thing. And I was leaving involvement with some things, and then deciding, I'm going to do something on my own. And so I formed my LLC, and that's when I decided it was Wavellite Creative, or Wavellite Creative, however you want to say it, as long as you spell it right. Wavellite Creative. And I started trying to do social media marketing. I started getting my website going. I started doing all the things. And again, my product lines have shifted over the years. I've started building my own wheels. I'm on to number 9 right now. It's almost done. I just have to do the final things. It's about a day and a half worth of me putzing around in the wood shop. I've joined a local makerspace that I'm having a great time just being part of a group of creative people that aren't necessarily fiber artists, because I've also branched out and got a laser cutter, actually because of the spinning wheels, because in order to build the spinning wheels, I needed to be able to make parts that I couldn't make any other way other than using either a CNC or a laser cutter. And the laser cutter was what we felt would be most worth our investment. So we got the laser cutter. I say we, meaning me and my husband, and because he helps. Even though he doesn't really get involved, he does help in the background. And I love him for it. I love him for a lot of reasons, but anyway. So we got the laser cutter, and so anyway, so I started branching out and adding things. So I've been doing some laser cut looms, I've been doing other components, I've been doing a lot of different things, and then recently started dyeing yarn because I have a very dear friend who runs a yarn dyeing business, and she's like, come over and play with dye. So we did some dye days where we would come over and raid her dye stash, and I would come in with some yarn that I wanted to dye, that I like, I'd buy some undyed yarn or something, and I'd be like, let's, so we'd dye yarn, and I got to play, and I got hooked. So here's a sneak preview or past view, depending on when you see this video. It's currently July of 2025. Words. 2025. It's July 2025. Anyway, so here's a little sneak preview of a colorway that I just did the other day. I have a wonderful lady who has a circular sock machine, and she's already got socks knit up with this colorway in a couple different yarn bases. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be a consistent colorway for me in the future, and she's already put in some requests for some versions based on this technique that I used for some more colorways. So those will come in the future, and socks will come, and I'm going to try and be proactive enough to get enough yarn dyed up that she can knit socks up ahead of time enough that I can have some of the socks knit up in my booth. That requires a lot of planning. I think I got things down, and then all of a sudden a month goes by and I'm like, what, where, who, what? Yes, ADHD. Yeah. Anyway, so my business keeps transforming, and like I said, I started building the wheels, and I'm on number 9. It just needs like a day and a half of me actually going in the shop with the intention of finishing it. But there's just been a lot going on. Life. It's life. So in a nutshell, that's me and my business. Without any real specifics. I'm gonna try. This is already like a 26-minute video, so I'm gonna try and do some other videos just talking about things, and maybe they won't be 27 minutes long. But anyway, so thank you if you made it through this whole video. I hope I didn't ramble too bad, and I hope you can forgive me for being long-winded. Thank you, and check out some more of my stuff. Hopefully there will be more than just 2 videos by the time you see this. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and get more up there on everything from Patreon to Facebook to TikTok to all of it. I mean, TikTok has some videos and Facebook has some stuff, and Patreon's the new one. I'm trying. I don't know, maybe on Patreon, if I can get my act together, I'll actually like be able to have like paid tiers and do things like virtual classes and stuff, because I do teach spinning. I could potentially do all sorts of things. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll do some dye videos, maybe, I don't know. There's so many possibilities. But I hope you enjoyed my rambling. Feel free to ask questions if I started talking about something and didn't finish it, because ADHD, it's what it is, man. This is me. This is Renee. Thanks for watching.